Right off the bat, I was really excited for American Horror Stories. I thought it would be like a cool way to pick Ryan Murphy's brain and get out some of those ideas that maybe weren't good enough to span a full season of American Horror Story. Now we know he'll just do double feature and just split it in half, but that's a whole other thing. Except he only co-wrote episodes 1 and 7 and directed none of them. Okay, but fine. He's giving other people a chance to make cool horror in this series. It's hard to pretend to have hope because I know how it went. So let's just jump into it. Disclaimer, spoilers, if you care. Honestly, there's only 2 episodes of this entire show that I would recommend you watch. So if you haven't seen it, I honestly don't recommend you go watch it. I mean, obviously go watch it and make your own opinions, but like, it's not worth your time. It's entertaining. We're gonna get into it. Rubber Woman, part 1 and 2. I'm just gonna group these together, talk about them at the same exact time. The first episode seems to be playing both on nostalgia of season 1, while also trying to pick up new fans along the way. Episode 1 starts exactly like episode 1 of Murder House. Scarlett's in the back of the car, her gay dads are in the front, but they're heading into LA for the first time, and they've just moved there to fix their lives, except for they bought the murder house. In season 1, the Harmons moved to the murder house because Ben Harmon cheated on his wife, and they're trying to fix that. In this season, Scarlett's dads are moving there to fix up the murder house to make it like an Airbnb haunted attraction, like have a haunted sleepover party, have a haunted dinner party, like that kind of stuff. So it is a little different. When they first move in, the dads seem far more stable than Ben and Vivian were, but obviously that all falls apart because now they're in the murder house and nothing good happens there, ever. Scarlett, the kind of main character of these first 2 episodes, is very much Gen Z's version of Violet. Violet was kind of like the depressed Tumblr girl, like, you know what I mean when I say depressed Tumblr aesthetic. It's that 2012. And Scarlett fits very much into like a queer Gen Z woman. And I want to compare them, but it's hard when Violet was like a depressed virgin and Scarlett is a kinky murderer. So there's this part where in the beginning, Scarlett is in her room, Violet's room, and Beau's ball rolls in. Beau's ball is used so much, I think 4 separate times in this series, only for him to never show up. It's just used as like ghosts are coming or ghosty thing is about to happen. But where's Beau? I don't know, too, because the character is mostly comprised of facial effects and like face makeup. You don't need the original actor to play that character. You really don't. So anyways, the ball rolls in. Scarlett goes to see if one of her dads rolled it in, thinking they're joking, and then the closet creaks open and the Rubber Man suit is in there. And she immediately grabs it and puts it on. Putting on a random fetish suit you found in your haunted house where a lot of people have been murdered, bad move.
A used S&M suit? Why the fuck would we do that?
Now, when talking about these first 3 episodes, I don't want to say they're bad so much as they are sloppy and lazy. There are very easy things that could have been fixed to just fix some errors in this show that they just didn't. The pacing is kind of shitty, and for some reason I didn't expect that to be a problem, but it is a huge problem, especially in episodes 1, 2, and 3. I get the episodes are only 1 hour, but they seem to either shove in things very awkwardly or just randomly skip important things for the sake of time, which is lazy. Sloppy parts are mostly continuity errors, in my opinion. I hope continuity is the right word. If it's not, I'll probably make fun of myself while editing this video, so it's fine. And I will give you examples. So Scarlett goes to school. She is wearing a specific outfit. The next scene is her in her room. She's diddling herself. The next scene after that is her in her bed. Again, it's dark outside. She's sleeping. She has a nightmare. And then the next scene after that is her on her bed in the same outfit that she went to school in the previous day, DMing Maya. This happens again in episode 2. Episode 2 opens and there are Halloween decorations, and when the cops pull up, you see kids in costumes with trick-or-treat baskets. The next scene is nighttime in Scarlett's room, and then there's like a few other scenes. I'm not going to go into detail, but there's a few other scenes, and characters are changing outfits, and these scenes are several days apart, at least 2 days apart, if not more. And then it's suddenly Halloween again. You just don't expect this kind of stuff from a show with his name on it. You know what I'm saying? Every season of American Horror Story is carefully calculated, is planned down to every detail. Everything means something. The whole universe is connected. So you don't expect these like sloppy, lazy issues to arise and show from him. Overall, I give the first 2 episodes a 2.5 out of 5. It's fine, but the pacing was kind of horrible, and the happily ever after at the end, which isn't unusual for American Horror Story, but it felt really forced because episode 2 basically had no point, in my opinion. Like, oh, the ghosts are trying to kill Scarlett, and then just like all of the sudden she's just like, I'm sorry I murdered you guys, and they're like, you know what, it's okay, we're not gonna kill you. Like, the happily ever after didn't feel deserved. I also think it would have been better if the house slowly poisoned Scarlett like it supposedly did to Tay. I think that's up for opinion. But I think it is very clear that the house has bad energy. The Antichrist was born there. But like, Scarlett's just like this as far as we know. Like, every time she puts on the rubber suit, her eyes go black. So like, maybe that's some sort of possession or something, but like, give us more details about that. Or like when Scarlett was handling her own situation and she has that fantasy of, you know, very clearly unconsensually choking the life out of Maya. She should have, after she finished, been like, oh my god, I've never thought about that before. That was really weird and kind of fucked up. Like, that would be a good way to show the progression of like, oh, the house is kind of fucking her up. And then her dads confront her and they're like, you've been watching aggressive porn again and it's getting worse and we're worried. So she's just like this. Like, Scarlett is just a sadist. Also, in their therapy session, they bring up that when Scarlett was 3, she was kidnapped for 10 days and then never talk about it again. Like, what did that bring to the table in the story? Another thing that could have made this better was exploring the Rubber Man a little bit more. We don't know a lot about the Rubber Man. Like, we know several characters have put the suit on throughout the story. Scarlett now, Tate, Michael, I think Ben puts it on at some point, but I could be wrong. But we also know it's kind of a separate entity because Michael summons it in the bunkers in Apocalypse. I just feel like they could have done more. Episode 3, Drive-In. This one is just as much of a mess. The episode starts with one of our main characters, Chad, pressuring our other main character, Kelly, into sex. And Kelly, being the bad bitch she is, calls him out for it and leaves. Later, he goes to the skate park with his friends and they're talking about how they didn't have sex and one of his friends are like, fear turns women on, which I don't even want to get into that. And his friend has tickets to this drive-in movie called Rabbit Rabbit. This movie is so rare because it got banned because the one and only time it was shown, everybody went crazy and started killing each other. There was a court case and all the prints got burned, except for one. Dun dun dun. Like, it's very much that kind of vibe. Also, another small continuity issue. Chad and Kelly are making out on his bed. It is nighttime. The next scene, Chad is outside with his friends at the skate park. It's light outside. The next scene, Chad is in his room watching a video. It's dark outside. The next scene, they're at school and Kelly's saying, can we just forget about last night? Like, as if he didn't say some honestly horrible shit to her. Okay, let's say it was the weekend. Kelly could have said, can we just forget about what happened on Saturday? Can we just fix these like little things? So there was actually something clever that happened in this episode that made me think Ryan Murphy was behind it, but it's not. It was written and directed by a completely separate person. Chad is in his room watching the video for the court case of Rabbit Rabbit. They say something about the senator's wife and then show a white lady with big blonde hair and it says Miss Gore. This is a really fun detail because of Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore. She was the head of or heavily involved in the PMRC, Parent Music Resource Center. If you don't know about the PMRC, they are the reason that there are explicit stickers on CD covers. Part of the Satanic Panic had a lot to do with rock stars, not solely, but a lot to do with rock stars. There were songs where if you played them backwards, they said a crazy message, which I believe 99% of the time was an accident because you could play a lot of music backwards and it sounds like real words. They also said that music was too explicit and they had this like horrible 15 song list. And I think they kind of used that court case, or used Tipper Gore, because part of that was the whole subliminal messages in rock music, and the Rabbit Rabbit movie has subliminal messages that make you go crazy. I just thought that was clever and funny. I'm always down to make fun of conservative people and censorship. Another beloved American Horror Story alum, Naomi Grossman, is in this episode. She's trying to get it to stop. She dies pretty quickly, but I just thought it was cool, and I like her, and that's cool. Rather than watch the movie, Chad and Kelly decide to get busy in the back seat so they don't turn into zombies, but everyone around them turns into zombies. Chad and Kelly escape and hide out in the projection room, where Chad has to kill the projection lady, and then he just like falls asleep, and that's how they make the time jump till morning. By morning, the zombies have kind of dissipated and aren't really hanging out in the drive-in anymore, but suddenly Kelly is like this fear-hardened bad bitch with a gun. I have a problem with that. She shows no sign of being like that before. Like, she's clearly a bad bitch who's not afraid to take care of herself, but I would just feel like she would be more emotional, but all of a sudden she's just like, it's like she's in a zombie apocalypse, but there's not like a ton of zombies. There's like at most 80 zombies running around LA. Chad says they should call the police, and Kelly literally says, I don't want to call the police because they're gonna question us for hours. Bitch, your best friend just died because of a bunch of zombies. Call the fucking police. Then Chad and Kelly talk about how one of Chad's friends said that he saw on 4chan there was going to be a second showing, and they decide they need to stop the second showing, which, like, responsible. Again, tell the police. Not that I'm, like, bowing down to the police because fuck the police. First of all, they would know a showing of Rabbit Rabbit was happening, especially after what happened. They would know that was happening. It wasn't like a best kept secret. 60 cars bought tickets to go see the showing. The second thing is, they would definitely know if there were roughly 80 zombies running around LA. Just because Chad and Kelly don't want to call the police doesn't mean the average civilian who encounters a weird zombie on the street isn't gonna call the police. Like, the fact that the police aren't involved at all is stupid and unrealistic. Not that this show obviously is realistic, but like, they would be there. So Kelly and Chad decide they need to stop this second showing. They need to track down the director, or track down the print of where the showing is happening, and destroy it. Chad remembers seeing it get delivered right before it's shown, and says maybe if we contact the deliverer, we can find the address or find more information of where to find the other print. So like, maybe if they contact the delivery company, they can track down where the print came from. And that's all we hear about it. The next scene, they are at the director's trailer in the middle of nowhere. They just found him. So obviously I have a problem with this, but how did they find this director off the beaten path in the middle of nowhere? So you're probably thinking to yourself, well, they contacted the delivery people, they told us that. The biggest problem with that is the director delivered the print himself. If you go back in the episode to where you see the person who delivered the print interact with the woman who is controlling the projector, she is talking to the director. The director delivered the print himself. On the film case, there should be no address. How did they track him down? It's so stupid. Okay, so let's say it's for the sake of time. In the projection room that doubled as an office for the drive-in, they could have opened the computer, they could have looked at documents, they could have found some correspondence between the director and the drive-in. That would have been so easy. They could have tracked him down that way. It would have taken just an extra few seconds or an extra few brain cells to write that part. I also believe when they show up at his trailer, you see the black van that he drove to deliver the print. Even though it's stupid, they're at the director's trailer, they find him, they talk to him, he's so titillated that they were there and they survived, and what did it look like, and he tells his whole story, and he knows all of this because he worked on The Exorcist, and they show that scary face, and like women gave birth or whatever, and he tells his whole villain story of how he made it, and how he loves it, and he thinks it's incredible. They shoot him in both of his legs, they find the other prints in his trailer, they put them on the oven, they turn the oven up all the way, and then they leave and it blows up with the director and all the prints inside of it. The next scene is Kelly and Chad in Chad's room again, and they're making out, and they're gonna do it this time. Then it pans over to Chad's computer, and it's open to Netflix, and it pops up new release, Rabbit Rabbit. And then it pans back over to the window and shows the city in chaos. End of the episode. The ending I actually is my favorite part of the episode, and not just I love the ending because it's over and I think it was horrible. I like the ending because I think it's a clever ending. I think it's a funny cliffhanger. I'll say one more positive thing about this episode. The way that it opens with the camera kind of panning from the city to the computer to the room, and the way that it ends with the camera panning from the room to the computer to the city. I think it's cool that they mirrored those two scenes. I think that was great camera work and good storytelling, but that's it. Honestly, I'll give this episode another 2.5 stars out of 5. I liked the concept of the movie making people crazy and whatnot, but the pacing was just off. There's that discrepancy with how they find the director. I don't like the way that Kelly in one night suddenly turned into like, I'm gonna go kill somebody. I just don't think that was done very well. I think it was kind of sloppy. And like, don't start an episode with someone getting pressured into having sex and then end it with the happy ending being that now they're having sex. Doesn't feel right to me. It feels a little off. We need to do better. The naughty list. It's basically making fun of YouTube and TikTok douches like the whole time. It revolves around a content house called the Bro House. These guys are like Bryce Hall and that whole shitty little TikTok group, and Jake Paul and Logan Paul, like all combined. And the actors they chose to play these characters are perfect. Oh, and the Bro House's house motto is no excuses, no limits. Their whole channel is basically revolved around like pranking each other and being douchebags. The guys spend the night at a suicide bridge in LA, and in the morning a guy does come to the bridge to commit. And the Bro House is so stoked to finally have this footage, and the guy does jump. And the way that they act is just horrible. Kevin McHale's character is being like, hey dude, we should call the police. This guy's really about to die. And they're just all kind of making jokes about it.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Zen. I'm here with Wyatt, James, and Barry. You guys are not gonna believe this. This dude is about to take a permanent vacation, and we are here to see it. Now, will he have the balls? I don't know. We're about to find out.
Oh, house.
Kevin McHale, who is the video editor and the videographer for the house, edits the video and he's like, hey dude, we can't post this. This is horrible. And the broiest of bros in the Bro House, take a shot every time I say bro. The broiest of bros says, we have to post it. We're about to be 30. We're going to be irrelevant. 30 in internet years is like being 40. So they post it and rightfully they get canceled for it. And then the most problematic bro, I mean, they're all problematic, but like the problematic brain of the problematic operation is like, we need to be homosexual. Women love like feminine men, so we need to do a bunch of like gay things, but as long as we say no homo at the end and everybody knows we're not gay, then it's fine. It is just a really funny scene. The montage of them pretending to be gay and do gay things with each other and then say no homo at the end is so funny, and they just look like they're having a good time. When that doesn't work, they're like, okay, we need to go back to our roots, right? We need to go back to pranks. Pranks are our roots. We just need to be the funny guys again. How do they do this? Well, they go to a mall to like the Christmas display, sexually harass the elves, tell all the kids Santa isn't real, and then try to do a lap dance on Santa, and then he kind of pushes one of them over, and then the mall cops come and they leave. That night, they're at their house, the police call, and they're like, hey, we need you to come in tomorrow. We need you to bring the raw footage from that video. The Santa in that video isn't the Santa the mall hired. The Santa the mall hired, we just found him dismembered in a box. And we're worried about that guy because it clearly wasn't the first time he's done something like this. There's no reason to go into detail about how it all goes down, but basically the bros just get murdered one by the fake Santa Claus in Christmassy ways. Kevin McHale does get to see that they reached 5 million though before he dies, and he's like celebrating while this Santa is trying to kill him. It's funny. It's a good episode.
Boys, we did it! 5 million followers!
They drop names throughout the episode like PewDiePie, Logan Paul, Patrick Star, and Tana Mojo, which, by the way, let's not bring her up anymore. Let's not give her anything. I give this episode 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't too sloppy. It flowed pretty well. I think mostly because it had a kind of different format. It flowed really well. There was like this 10-second part where they tried to talk about like a Santa urban legend and like tie all of that in. I think they could have just left that out. But it was funny and entertaining. And after Influencer 19 and all the shitty people who've gotten famous recently, it was kind of cathartic. I feel like because I like these episodes, I should go over them pretty quickly. I'm just going to call episode 5 Demon because it is named after a real demon, and because of my own personal beliefs, I don't just drop the names of demons willy-nilly. This episode is actually good, and it opens with Billie Lourd, and I fucking love Billie Lourd. The episode opens with Billie Lourd and her husband, whose name I don't remember and don't care to remember, getting the bad news that their 5th round of IVF has failed. On the way out, Billie stops to make an appointment with the receptionist, and the receptionist is like, hey, I've seen you guys in here for years. I feel horrible you haven't been able to get pregnant. Take this creepy totem. If you put it under your bed and have sex, you'll have a baby. Billie Lourd's character is rich. She has family money. She's very much like, I didn't make this money's from my grandpa, but I don't mind spending it to try to get pregnant. She doesn't mind supporting her husband, who is kind of a failed actor. I mean, like, he's getting extra parts. Not to say that if you only get parts as an extra, you're a failed actor, but I don't like him, so I don't have to be nice to him, you know? But he's gonna continue to try to be an actor because he doesn't want to be the guy that just lives off of his wife's money. Billie puts the totem under the bed, they have sexy times, cut to the opening credits. When we come back, it is 16 months later. Billie is struggling. She feels like she doesn't know what she's doing. She feels like nothing she's doing is right. She doesn't feel like her baby likes her. She's not sleeping well. She's having a really hard time. So basically, she goes into her room, she hears whispering, the baby monitor's glitching out. She finds the totem under her bed. It looks slightly scarier. She doesn't realize it, but I realize it, and she puts it in a box in her closet and just kind of forgets about it. There are several times she's looking at the baby monitor, and it looks like there's something, a demon. Let's be real, it looks like there's a demon in the baby's room, and she goes in and it's not there, and then there's one point where she's looking at the monitor while she's in the nursery, and it looks like a demon is behind her. She turns around, it's not there. Her husband suggests she goes to a therapist. The therapist says, you're not crazy. I don't think any of this is crazy. I think it's new baby hormones, and you're overtired. And her husband's like, yeah, baby hormones, overtired. But then he still goes out to do acting at night and doesn't set any of that aside for her. During this time, she actually does, like, start to connect with her baby, and things with her baby start to get easier, but things with the demon start to get worse. So, like, it's hard to be happy about that.
Is there something you want to say to us? He is mine. He is mine.
Liv, you embarrassed the shit out of me.
Fuck you, man.
She tracks down the receptionist. The receptionist is like, it's a fertility god. I didn't think it would be like an issue. So she goes back to the receptionist's house. The receptionist is like, I have all these grimoires for like aesthetic purposes, but what if there's a banishing spell in here? And then she says, like, grimoires are a compendium of black magic, which, first of all, why are we still having this misinformation issue? They find a banishing spell. She gives it to Billie. During the ceremony, she accidentally stabs her husband. But, like, come on, dude. You walk into your house and your wife is chanting and has a bloody knife, and you think, like, I'm gonna sneak up behind her quietly. Cut to 2 weeks later, she's in a psychiatric care facility. It's very much movie magic because it looks like a prison cell. He's like, come home. She's like, I endangered our baby. I don't want to come home. When he leaves, he gets in the car and there's the receptionist. He's sleeping with the receptionist. She purposefully gave Billie this totem and purposefully had all this culty shit in her house, so when Billie was looking for her, she would have all this shit in her house. There's another dinner party with his friends where they joke about gaslighting her and driving her crazy. That's right, folks, there was no demon. This was all of his friends doing movie magic stuff to make her go crazy so that he could prove her to be insane and take her money. Plot twist, the demon is real. He comes and kills everybody at the dinner party. A few weeks later, the husband is in prison. They assume he killed all his friends at the party. Cut back to Billie Lourd. She's holding her baby. She's in a nice outfit, and the demon walks in and he says, release me. I've done everything you asked. This is when we find out that the banishing spell that the receptionist gave her is not actually a banishing spell, it's a summoning spell. Billy Lord did the summoning spell, summoned the demon, and had him kill all of her husband's friends. It ends with her basically saying she'll release the demon if he gives her another baby. Fuck it, 5 out of 5 for this one. Good for her. It was well planned, it seemed to utilize the 1 hour time perfectly. I didn't see the ending coming. Yes, it was a little cheesy, but American Horror Story has its cheesy moments, so it doesn't feel bad. I did truly enjoy this episode. Episode 6, Ferals. This one is actually also good. It starts with a couple going camping with their toddler. During the night, they hear some weird screeching noises. There's a weird shadow that passes by the tent, but they don't think anything of it. The next day, the dad gives the toddler this Boy Scout compass, and they're playing in the woods. Meanwhile, Mom is following a blood trail to a mutilated deer, and she thinks it's really creepy. And then she hears the dad suddenly calling the son's name, whose name I don't remember. I don't remember anybody's name from anything ever. The son went missing while they were playing in the woods. Cut to the opening credits. When we come back, it is 10 years later. The couple have divorced. The mom has kind of moved on a little bit, but the dad is still looking for his son. A hunter shows up at the dad's house and has a picture of a boy who is roughly the age of what the toddler would be now, and the compass that the dad gave the toddler. The hunter says there are illegal pot growers in that area, and he believes they have something to do with the kid going missing. And he wants to take the dad to the growers. If they give them some money, he thinks the growers will give them some information. Dad is desperate, obviously says yes, but he doesn't have money, so he has to go to the mom and ask for money. And while he's there, the mom's like, I'll give you the money, but I'm coming too. While they are hiking to the growers, they stop at the ranger station, and who is there but Ranger Cody Fern himself? The hunter thinks Cody Fern is a crackpot kind of dude and says, like, don't even listen to anything that he says. But then immediately the dad divulges their whole plan, and Cody Fern is like, I was there. I just started working here when your son went missing. He came outside because he heard screeching, and he was kind of looking around, and then he got hit with a bunch of rocks, and then he was kind of like passing out, and while he was kind of like fading out of consciousness, he saw something carrying something that looked like the kid. The dad and mom are like, please tell us more, but that's all he has. And the hunter's like, you're crazy, we're leaving. When they finally make it to the growers, they find that they've all been murdered and mutilated. The hunter freaks out because, plot twist, he was never actually trying to help them. The picture of the boy was his nephew in the woods, and the compass he found at the army surplus store. The hunter's plan was to bring the couple to the growers, steal their money and their credit cards and all that kind of shit, and then kill them. Right before he kills the couple, one of the growers comes back to life and start attacking him and biting him in the neck. The dad gets shot. Mom and dad kind of hobble away, and then a bunch of creepy, grungy, people-looking creatures come out of the bushes and descend on the hunter and start eating him. And I knew right away what this was, and I got so excited. I'm still excited about it. Hell yeah, feral people. I love the feral people in national parks conspiracy. I'm in it. I've researched this shit. I think it's so interesting. My opinion is it's probably not feral people. It sounds more like aliens, but there are some things that are like, maybe it's not aliens. It's still probably not feral people, but maybe it's not aliens. We don't need to get into that today. If you want a whole video about feral people in national parks, I'll do it. You just gotta ask. Nonetheless, I really like the concept, and I was kind of working on / hoping somebody would make a movie or a book or a TV show, something about the feral people conspiracy, because at the very least, if it is not real, it's interesting. Anyway, Mom and Dad make it back to Ranger Cody Fern's station. Ranger Fern does some first aid on the dad. The mom kind of recounts what happened to him, and Cody Fern's kind of like, I kind of know what happens, but I can't tell you. And they're like, tell us. And he's like, I can't. Them's the rules. The dad kind of goes crazy, rightfully so, and holds Cody Fern at gunpoint and is like, tell us what's going on. Ranger Cody Fern is very calm in this situation, and it seems kind of like he doesn't mind telling them, and now that he's held at gunpoint, he can't really be held responsible for telling them. He basically says, it's not Bigfoot, it's something way worse. Then he goes to the filing cabinet and he pulls out like confidential national park file.
The national park system wasn't created to preserve the country's natural beauty. What was it created for? To keep Americans from things that would kill and eat them. I call them feral nation, for a subpopulation of humans that live in the deep woods like animals. A lot of Bigfoot sightings of these things.
You said eat them. These things eat people?
Yeah, whenever they can, they go cannibal.
Why do they look like this?
Inbreeding, genetic mutations over decades, maybe hundreds of years. There are pockets of these things in every national park. Over 2,000 people have vanished from the parks over the years.
Which, by the way, this implies that Teddy Roosevelt knew about the feral people. Then he explains that, like, didn't they ever wonder why, like, the military basically showed up when their son went missing instead of, like, police or, like, national park rangers? And they're like, yeah, that is kind of weird. And he's like, that's because every time something like this happens, they go in and do, like, population control and kill as many as the ferals as they can to kind of keep them from going into areas they're not supposed to be in. Ranger Cody Fern goes to radio some people to get some medical help for the dad and to get some more population control because shit's getting out of control. And that is when the feral people descend on the ranger station. Unfortunately, they eat Ranger Cody Fern. The mom and dad get away, but the ferals are right behind them. They get to this clearing and they are surrounded by ferals. And in the middle of the clearing, which I don't know how this got here, is their son. He's got like fucked up teeth, but in general, he's alive and he looks okay. And he's sitting on a throne of human bone. He recognizes his parents, and then we learn that the ferals have their own language, and their son just told everybody that his parents are for dinner. They get eaten, end of the episode. Altogether, I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I liked the lore and everything built up around it until it's like the ferals are kind of organized and they have their own language and they have a leader. I think that there should have been a little more mystery on that part of it. I like the ending. I like that it's not just like a happy ending and like wrapped up. I like that they don't like take him home or like save him. The parents just get eaten because let's be real, the ferals aren't gonna let them go. I just wish they would have left some aspect of the ferals to be kind of more mysterious and less planned. I don't want to, but now we have to talk about episode 7, Game Over. The worst episode in this whole series, in all of American Horror Story, in all of Ryan Murphy universe. I'm going to kind of explain the episode the best I can without getting too angry, and then we're going to talk about it, just so you can really get the feel of how bad it is. Especially the first few minutes. We are back at Murder House because that went so well last time. Oh, and look, it's Noah Cyrus and her blonde boyfriend. And it's meta because American Horror Story, the show, exists in this episode, and these two met at Comic-Con. He was Bloodyface's son, she was Sister Jude. It was meant to be. I hate it here. They have rented the murder house for the night for the Survive the Murder House experience. They go to the kitchen and find a letter that is in the American Horror Story font that says they heard this couple were violators and they need to go to the room where Violet and Tate consummated their forbidden love. Is this what Ryan Murphy thinks his fans are? Because I'm offended. They follow the black rose petal to Violet's room, and Noah Cyrus's boyfriend puts on the black and green striped Tate sweater, and she's so overcome with horniness, I guess, and they have to have sex right then, right there. The sex scene literally lasts like 5 seconds, and it's really weird for reasons I'm not going to tell you about yet, but we'll talk about later. And they find like another note to go down to the basement, and once they get to the basement, they see there's 3 girls locked up behind bars, and they're like, this isn't fake, this is real, help us, get us out of here. And then the rubber man shows up and kills them, even though they're already ghosts, and then the Noah Cyrus's boyfriend dies. Noah Cyrus makes it out of the basement where she encounters Addie, which, by the way, good to see Addie again. Great character, great actress, good to see her. And Noah Cyrus is like, you shouldn't be here. Addie didn't die in the murder house. And Addie's like, I showed up for this special occasion. Your death. And then Noah Cyrus runs to the stairs, which why would you run to the stairs when the front door is right there? But why am I complaining about this? Because I already know how this all ends. She runs to the stairs and gets confronted by Bloodyface at the top and Twisty at the bottom. She somehow beats Bloodyface, she sends him over the edge, and then gets murdered by Twisty. And then, oh, it's a video game. It's a video game inside of a show about a show that is already a show, and it's a video game. It's a teenager playing this video game. The son complains the game sucks because obviously Blayface and Twisty aren't from Murder House. There's no reason they would be in Murder House. He doesn't feel like his mom gets the vibe of Murder House and she doesn't get the show. Turns out mom quit her job to make this video game to try to connect to her son. And the son's like, if you wanted to get close to me, why didn't you just watch the TV show? Like, we could have just watched the TV show together and that would have been fine. He gets pissed and leaves to go stay at his dad's. The mom decides to sit down and watch the entire show. After watching the show, the mom goes and tours the murder house because everyone actually died there, but also everyone died in the show because the murder house is real and everything that happened in the show is real, but also there's a show. Anyways, the mom goes to visit the son at his dad's house, brings him some clothes, they kind of make up, and she's like, I'm going to a horror convention to meet the writers of American Horror Story. This is false. She's actually going to the murder house that she bought. She didn't really buy it. She just kind of put down money so she could go hang out in it for a night, but they're gonna find out she can't actually afford it. When she gets there, she witnesses Ruby and Scarlet reuniting because it's Halloween and they reunite every Halloween. She goes in, she finds Ben Harmon, he's crying. He makes it clear that he hasn't masturbated this time, which is comforting. Yay, character growth, I guess. Hey Ryan, remember Apocalypse? Season 8? Do you remember that one? It was pretty good. I liked it. It felt like all the closure that anyone would need for Murder House. Why are we doing this? Anyway, long story short, mom gets killed in the murder house. Cut to 1 year later, it's Halloween again. She goes to her son and he's not surprised that he's there because of the show, because he's a fan of American Horror Story, which is a thing in this universe, but also sometimes they forget about it. He's pissed at her and tells her the only way to escape the murder house is to burn that shit to the ground. The next morning, the son shows up with a bunch of gasoline. Ruby decides she's gonna kill the son because she doesn't want the murder house to burn down. The other ghosts decide to stop Ruby from killing the son because they want to move on, and the only way to do that is the fire. So after like some drama, Ben Harmon and the other ghosts trying to keep Ruby from killing the son, the murder house does burn the fuck down. Years later, Scarlet shows back up to meet with the realtor who is selling condos that were built where the murder house was. They've sold like 5 units, it's been 6 months, there's been no ghost sightings, there's been no murders. Scarlet buys the condo, she calls out for Ruby a few times, Ruby never shows up, she gets in bed, she's crying because she thinks Ruby's gone forever, and oh hey look, it's Ruby, she's actually there. Ruby says that the ghosts had a choice to move on, and she was the only one that chose not to move on because she knew Scarlet would come back to her. Happy ending, camera pans out the window, and then there's like these weird fake blood firework effects. And I was just like kind of confused because I was like, that's really cheesy and shitty for something like American Horror Story. That's because it's another fucking video game. And all of that we just saw was apparently the mom's video game again. And this time her son actually likes it and happy ending. Fuck this show. I hate this episode. I really hate this episode. Some thoughts. Just a few thoughts. The mom watches the whole first season of the show before she goes to the murder house, and then when she shows up to the murder house, it takes her a while to realize who Ben Harmon is. Didn't you just watch the show? Do we actually know what the context of the episodes are? Also, she put that short sex scene, she put a man premaculating in a video game that her son was going to play. It feels like this whole episode can't decide what this episode is about, but also what the American Horror Story show that is in this universe is about. Because when you're watching her watch the show, it doesn't actually show scenes from American Horror Story. It shows kind of like the outside of the house, and that's it, and plays the theme song and the montage of her watching it. Did the real life murder house actually burn down, or was all of that just in the video game? Was the first scene part of the video game that the son was playing that he liked at the end? Was the whole episode part of the game, and part of the game is a son playing a game that his mom made that he didn't like and her fixing it? Like, is that the game? And if everything we see in this episode is part of the video game, what a shitty, boring video game.
Hi, it's me from the future.
While editing this video, I had a few more thoughts because I had to rewatch the episodes again to put the clips in. So I figured I'd just pop in and talk. At the very end of Game Over, the son asks, "Where do you think all the spirits that were in Murder House went?" The mom says they went to heaven or hell or whatever, and he asks, "Do you think any of them escaped into the world?" And she replies, "I hope not," and then they leave and Bo's ball rolls out in their house. I think this was supposed to be some kind of cliffhanger or something, maybe. Like maybe something to hype you up for the next season, because plot twist, apparently despite it being kind of terrible and most of the fans that I've seen kind of hating it, they did get a season 2. So I don't know if this was supposed to build suspense for season 2. I don't know if they're going to continue that story in season 2. I really hope they don't continue this story in season 2. But this begs a lot of questions that I kind of already asked, which is, did Murder House actually burn down? Or was that just the video game? You assume they're talking about the video game, but then Bo's ball rolls in their house and you're like, are they maybe hinting at the fact that all the stuff with the mom actually happened? And maybe because the house burned down, she just decided to go back to her regular life and pretend she's not a ghost because she's no longer bound to the house. 0 out of 5 stars. I think that's all I can really say about Game Over, other than I hated it. At the beginning of every episode, there's like screaming and noises. I'll just play a compilation of it so you can see what I'm talking about.
You are going to die.
That's kind of annoying. I don't remember that from American Horror Story, like from the main show. I don't know why they did that. I don't like it. It's annoying. Anyway, I want to end the video on a positive note and compliment the show on the opening credits of every episode. They were all unique and personalized for every episode, and they were really well done. Also, I just wanted to say, I'm still very excited for Double Feature. American Horror Story's sucking doesn't mean I'm no longer excited for American Horror Story. I still think Double Feature is gonna be great. I'm very excited to see Macaulay Culkin in American Horror Story. I think he's perfect for this show. Anyway, you should like and subscribe because next week I'm going to be doing a deep dive into a mysterious YouTube video. I'm Clever Haunts, and I guess that's it.